Hello and welcome to an amazing podcast. This is D and Modi, and we are talking about the next episode, episode 3 of God of High School. And boy, I am definitely enjoying this series.
Same. It's I wouldn't say this episode was as good as the first two, but it's still very good, and you can see that the world is starting to open up a lot more too, which is good.
So, question. So I have a couple, I really enjoyed the episode, but there were a few things that kind of rubbed me in a mixed way. So, one thing I really appreciate about the writing for this show so far is it does something I really love, and that thing is planting seeds. We see there's a lot of moments through the series where the show starts hinting at something bigger and sort of starts alluding to some grander world or some, for lack of a better term. But so this episode does that and continues to do it. But my biggest issue is the opening scene does not stick the landing in terms of that. If stuff like the shadowy figures or the giant island-shaped palm print were like puzzle pieces building to a larger picture, this the first scene felt like a Lego brick in a pile of puzzle pieces. It didn't feel like it like connected very well to the other scenes or the other like moments of seed planting. But I will also counter that by also like bringing up that the palm we see the island, like the palm print on the island, I believe that's a Buddhist symbol, or it's a religious symbol, and I believe, because I know that Jotaro has a similar symbol on his outfit from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I believe that this shot of all of the statues, the Hindu statues. Also, that symbol could either be Buddhist or Hindu. I'm not sure of the exact origin. And I feel like that was a visual element to sort of tie it together. But that's a guess and me trying to read it into it in favor of the show. I will say that the reason it brings up a question I was wondering, and I want to ask you it. Which is better? A story that 10 dumb to medium intelligent people can enjoy versus a story where only 2 super smart people can really enjoy. Because this feels like a kind of moment where there were small elements that connected it to the previous scenes, but you had to have that Rick and Morty level IQ to notice it. And I'm not counting like the characters that make another appearance in that scene. I'm talking about that in the terms of the whole symbolism issue, or symbolism thing I pointed out earlier. I feel like if it wanted to like reconnect to the original scenes, they would have had like the palm print symbol be more emphasized, similar to how like the dude's hand matches the hand, like the commissioner or whatever, how his hand matched the island palm print. But aside from that, it was another really great episode with a lot of great fight scenes, and we'll get into the ending section when we get there. So, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I was actually had something pretty similar to say as you about the religious group thing. Whatever it was at the beginning, I felt like it was kind of just like put in there. But also, now you made me think maybe it's just a reference that if you live, like, I don't know, in an Eastern Asian country, you might like understand. You might have a better intuitive understanding of what was going on. Like, let's say, for example, that the that paw print thing is a Buddhist symbol, and then those people at the beginning of this episode were like Buddhist monks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then that would make, and then like it, or maybe it has something to do with some like well-known martial arts in martial art in Eastern Asian countries. So if all those things are connected, then I imagine that's something that would be like someone not in America would probably like be able to see much more easily.
True.
And it might make a lot more sense to them, and it wouldn't be as confusing.
True.
But that's just speculation. I have no idea. From my perspective, yeah, I feel like it was just kind of pushed in there. But also, I'm not even really sure how else they would do it. Like, what do you think would be a better way to include that stuff?
I would just say, like I said before, have the whole palm print on the island be a reoccurring symbol, and then have it more prevalent in that shot.
Oh, true.
Because that way,
yeah, and also, yeah, and also when I think about it, like to some degree, I feel like it doesn't matter. This kind of goes back to your question about 10 medium dumb people versus 2 smart people. I feel like I definitely fall into the medium dumb people category because I didn't even realize when we first watched that episodes 1 and 2, I didn't even realize that was a paw print or anything like that. Like I wasn't even paying attention to that. I was just paying attention to the fights. Same thing with episode 3, really. And I feel like most people are like that. They're just like paying attention to the fights. And I feel like this stuff with like the paw print and like the religious group, that stuff is like, yeah, it would be nice if it was like inserted in a more artful way, I guess. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because it just has to be there so people understand that the scope of the story is bigger than just a martial arts tournament. It doesn't really have to be like done that great until later on. I feel like, you know.
Right. So next up, we have got another fight, and two or three questions. Does a wooden sword make that much sense as a weapon? Because I am pretty sure you can't reinforce wood. Secondly, is a wooden sword technically isn't technically a wooden sword just a weaponized stick? Thirdly, why bring a wooden sword to a martial arts tournament? You could easily just bring in a regular sword. Fourthly, if you could do that much damage with just your arms, why are you using a wooden sword?
All that
Fifthly,
is true.
if this is just such a precious family heirloom, why are you bringing it into a martial arts tournament? I'm pretty sure 90% of the people there can break concrete. They should be having an easy time breaking a wooden sword.
I wouldn't be surprised if that wooden sword was made from some special type of godwood or something like that can't be broken, or it's like infused with some sort of chi that won't allow it to be broken or something like that. Like,
or it's just a regular sword that got painted brown.
Yeah. But I feel like the wooden sword is actually, it's cooler that it's a wooden sword than if it was a regular sword because one, it shows that her intention isn't to kill, and two, I just feel like a regular sword is just kind of like boring in a way. I don't know. In Gintama, the main character Gintoki, he pretty much just goes through the whole series fighting people with wooden swords, and like he'll even fight people with regular swords using his wooden sword, so it's more badass that way. So I feel like that could be part of it here. It's just like she's so badass she doesn't even need a real sword. I don't know. I like it though.
Also,
but yeah, she's so strong she doesn't even need it.
Okay, and also, that aside, like I said, fight scenes amazing as usual. If this show goes on for more than 13 episodes, I am sending all of my condolences to the families of the animators. But at the end of this episode, they introduce both devil fruits and stands. And I want to ask you, does it feel like things are slightly... It feels like things are both escalating properly but at the same time escalating a little too fast. So the palm print, again, going back to that, was really great because it established the power cap, or like the top tier characters in this world. But I feel like this feels like Hunter x Hunter introducing Nin within the first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
I would say it's
I don't know.
worse than that. That's like it's like revealing that you're secretly in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure 4 episodes in.
Yeah, I think that's a better analogy, because I was gonna ask you pretty much the exact same question. How do you feel about all that stuff being introduced? I feel like at some point, we even talked about it when we were reviewing the first 2 episodes, that the series runs a risk of getting boring if it's literally just a high school martial arts tournament. Mm-hmm. So I can't say I'm surprised that there's like this type of like, you know, element to it, like a kind of like a mystical element or whatever. But I do think it's early, because I feel like they could have gone on longer without introducing it, and still it still would have been very interesting. They didn't have to introduce it this early. I don't think it's a terrible thing, but because it does show you that there's more to the world and more to the story, and it's like it's a much bigger thing than you thought. But it didn't have to be done this early. And like, to compare it to Hunter x Hunter, I think if it was actually done the way Hunter x Hunter did it, when you think back to Hunter x Hunter, sorry to anyone who's listening to this and hasn't seen it, like, you know, and won't get the reference, I'll make it quick. But when you look back to Hunter x Hunter, they didn't explicitly introduce Nen until much later, until the second arc. Yeah. But they implicitly introduced it very early on, within the first few episodes, with Hisoka, when he was like doing his weird tricks and nobody knew how he was doing what he was doing.
Right.
So like, the way that could have been applied here in God of High School is if that examiner did some weird trick and like you don't know what's going on, right? And then later on, like much later on, it's like explained that he was using some sort of mystical power.
Now, one thing I will say is I have very mixed feelings about the stands. So firstly, that literally reminded me of the whole like demon thing Neferpito had in like Hunter x Hunter. Sorry to keep bringing that up, but I feel like the biggest draw of this show is the whole martial arts aspect of it, and I feel that them just throwing kaiju and stuff into this mix like this kind of it brings it down a little bit for me. And I think it's just, like you said, in the execution. If it was just like, oh wow, the instructor's doing this weird stuff, how's he doing it? And it's just like, or even if they just went JoJo's rules, where you just see like Jin getting bashed around by an invisible force, I think that would have worked a lot better. How I would have preferred it is they go through this whole tournament arc just doing straight martial arts, and we get like some subtle like Street Fighter level like special moves, like maybe someone throws out a small flame fireball Hadouken, or like a lot of stuff we've been seeing right now. And then we go in, we start off with the third arc of like, okay, here we got Devil Fruit and we have magical martial arts superpowers, and then you start bringing into like the more explicit supernatural stuff. And then when you get to the third arc, that's when you start introducing the like kaiju stands and stuff. Yeah. But with this, it feels like it's like we have this whole huge toy box of all these cool characters, and then we instantly get shown that, oh yeah, all that's worthless. It's like in Dragon Ball Z, if like the first world martial... It's like in Dragon Ball, sorry. We were like entering the first world martial arts tournament, and we just get introduced to like Super Saiyan level characters halfway through the tournament. It's like... So all these characters are just like super weak in terms of like this world's sort of structure.
Yeah.
The last thing I will go on tangent about is I also feel like this kind of breaks the world, like, kind of hurts the world building a little bit. Because we get established super early that this is sort of a scientifically advanced world where you have, like, fancy nanomachines that can, like, heal wounds instantly and blah blah blah. I feel like they should never have given the nanomachine like explanation. They should have just said like, yes, our doctors are so good. We can like you'll be healed instantly, so go all out. So it kind of plants the seeds like, well, how are these doctors so good? Wow, that guy just got his neck snapped. How is he still walking around? These people are freaking advanced.
Yeah, okay, so there's two things. For the second part, I don't have as much of a problem with it, but I can see why you do because I think in general you tend to not like it when fantasy and sci-fi mix, right?
It has to mix a proper way, and I think the problem with it is we are getting blasted with it really hard.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to go back to the thing about him fighting the instructor or commissioner.
Mm.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what you said. I think the really good part about that was that one, it kind of threw like a small little plot twist, you
It's
know,
a big
rather
plot
than
twist.
specifically the idea him not just continuing straight in the tournament and having to fight a commissioner rather than the whole situation around whether or not he's going to get eliminated from the tournament. I think that's like a good interesting little plot twist to throw in there. The other good thing about it is I do like the fact that they're setting like the idea here is to set up power scaling early on to show like what is capable in the series and to show that like the commissioners are on a completely different level. In fact, the whole goal when he was fighting is just for him to knock him down. Like that was supposed to be like a big goal. But I think the best way this could have been done is if he fight like the very first part. We haven't even talked about that, the fruit and all that, but like when he just like knocks him down easily, that was great. I did not see that coming. I've pretty much seen everything coming so far. That was the first thing that I was like, oh wait, damn. So he knocks him down that easily, but then what should have happened was the commissioner should have reacted in the exact same way. The only difference should have been that we didn't see what was hitting Jin, and Jin didn't see what was hitting him either. Like it was just like this random thing just smacking him up and down, and we have no idea, and like he's just down on the ground. And then the other commissioners come up and like, hey, you're getting a 3-month salary cut or whatever. And like we're just like, what just happened? Like what is this? Right? And then later on it would be revealed like, yeah, you can only see the stand if you're at a certain level and you've like trained your chi or whatever to a certain point. I feel like that would have been probably the best way to handle that. But I wanted to ask you about the fruit because that was very interesting to me, and it's cool, but I feel like I'm kind of missing the point. So he gets given this fruit.
The other thing I want to point out is it would have been equally interesting if they continue with the nanomachine angle, and it's like, yeah, we injected him with special nanomachines to test how powerful he truly is.
Yeah, I feel like you're right. It's a lot of stuff thrown in at the same time. I agree. But what did you think the fruit? What was the point of that? Because I don't really get it. Was it just poisoned fruit?
Like I said, devil fruit. They're going with the whole like, if you eat this magical fruit, you get superpowers.
Oh, so you think it gives him superpowers?
Yes. And again, really loving the show, but like everything I really love, it's not perfect. I feel I don't like the idea of him getting superpowers because we already get you're already shown that this guy is freakishly strong, it would have been way better if he gets like humble, like gets one hell of a humbling, and then it goes the Hunter x Hunter route where it's like, okay, he needs to learn how to do this stuff. He's awesome, but he's not good as everyone else.
Okay, but I don't get why you think it gives him a superpower. Like, where did you get that from?
Because everyone, like, we established that normal people don't have superpowers, and they gave him, like, magic fruit that just was, like, forbidden and couldn't be unleashed to most people, and they're testing and it was, like, some sort of test thing.
So basically, your theory is that the fruit was given to him, and it's like basically the way the fruit operates is that either it will kill you or not, and if it doesn't kill you, then it'll make you stronger by giving you power, pretty much. Okay, all right. So if I tend to agree with that. I wasn't like. I'm not as sure as you are, but that seems like the best theory to me, because the only other alternative is that he just gave him poison fruit and wanted to see if he would survive it. I think that's also possible. But what do you think about him doing that? Like, isn't that kind of... I don't see what the point of that is. Like, if you're going to go into a fight, if him having to fight an overpowered commissioner is the punishment, right? And he's going to be handicapped, like the commissioner is going to have a handicap. Why would you give him a fruit that like might kill him? Like, I don't see the point of that, you know?
Yeah, like you would think you would either like put him up against the commissioner or just see if he survives, and if he survives, he's welcome back.
Yeah, I feel like that would probably be better. I feel like doing both the fight and the fruit is overkill, probably. But also, it's possible that we don't know. We don't actually really know yet what the fruit is for 100%. Maybe we'll find out next episode and it'll make sense. But yeah, I think your theory probably is right. And if your theory is right, then that really is a lot of stuff to throw in early on.
Man, I can't wait till next episode when they start introducing mechs and Super Saiyans.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna level out, just because from everything I've heard about the series, like, I imagine it can't get too crazy because otherwise people would be like, this is a mess. But I don't hear that at all. You know, I hear like, this series is great. And the one thing I've always heard is that the series has the best fights. So hopefully the fights will be more interesting when it's not like the stand versus just a regular person, you know, stand versus stand, maybe.
Yeah. But
and also yeah, one more thing. Also, once we get to like stand battles, I hope that they're not just I hope that they're closer to the JoJo stand battles, because if it's just like stands throwing hands, then I think it's pointless, because it might as well just be the people just doing martial arts, right?
Exactly.
And fighting. So if they're gonna like have stands, they should have like specific powers, and it would be interesting if, you know, they had like strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that, kind of like how JoJo does it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's it actually. Oh yeah, do you have any theories about his grandfather? Any at all? I know it's like a very open-ended thing right now, but
I am so I'm looking at this from a writing point of view, and I'm just going to throw in the trope of grandfather used to be legendary fighter, had some run-ins with this group, developed a reputation with them, and now they're eyeing his grandson.
Yeah, I agree. I would even go as far as saying his grandfather was or is a part of that group. All right, cool. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Anything else for you?
How would you rate the episode?
Oh, I would give it maybe a 7, 6 or 7, somewhere around there.
So, my pros for this episode are, again, every episode every fight scene in this episode super great. I absolutely love Jin's characterization. My only issue is the constant, like, how just it throws all these huge concepts at you at very... I can't tell if it's either rushed or sloppy, but it could have been executed better. So, I want to give it an 8, but if I'm looking at it super critically, I'll give it a 7.5.
Okay. All right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So,
cool.
Yeah, that's been our review of episode 3 of God of High School. Thanks for watching, and stick around to watch the next review next week.
Yep. Stay safe and keep fighting. See you soon.